It is that time of year again. We are now ready for the first round of the playoffs to almost come to an end here. But first, we have some exciting games to be played. Game 7, the most exciting game in Stanley Cup playoff history. So today, we're going to preview 2 Game 7s going on tonight. Obviously, we get the Leafs and the Bruins and the Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks. We'll preview those games coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned, we have some Game 7s going on tonight. We have some more coming up later here in the week as well. We're not done with the first round of the playoffs here just yet. We get the Leafs and the Bruins, of course, doing battle in Game 7. It only seems right for those two teams to go here for a third consecutive series. And of course, Vegas and San Jose going to distance as well, even though that series looked like it might have been wrapped up a little bit earlier. Now let's get started here with the Sharks and the Golden Knights and have a quick look at this one to see what we can expect in Game 7. Now, obviously, this series got started with a San Jose Sharks victory in Game 1, and then after that, the Vegas Golden Knights basically took over the series and wrapped off 3 consecutive wins. It looked like it was well on their way to a first-round victory. Vegas' highest scoring line in the playoffs here, Stone, Pacioretty, and Stanley, was on fire. Things looked to be well under control. Of course, after that, they go into Game 5, where the San Jose Sharks are facing elimination. And of course, the Sharks pulled up a big victory back in San Jose to force a Game 6. So after a big 5-2 victory in Game 5 in San Jose, they pushed it to Game 6 here, which took place the other night in Vegas, which was the longest overtime game we've seen yet in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, with a big 2-1 victory. San Jose defeating Vegas. Thomas Hertl scoring shorthanded in double overtime. Of course, as you know, Thomas Hertl earlier in the playoffs when they were down 3-1, guaranteed the Sharks would come back to force a Game 7. So at least he doesn't look too silly for making that bold prediction. This team has come through and battled hard to keep the series alive here for the past 2 games. Now let's take a look at some breakdowns here, some goaltending and some scoring, and how the series has gone so far. As you can see, Marc-Andre Fleury's battled Martin Jones in this playoff series, and Fleury's numbers certainly look a lot better, but you can certainly make a case here that Martin Jones has been the better goalie in the past couple of games. Obviously, since we're going to Game 7, they both have a 3-3 record. Fleury has a 2.47 goals against average and a .912 save percentage, so even though Marc-Andre Fleury has been pretty good for Vegas, he's certainly not putting out the numbers that he did in last year's playoffs, and for me, going into Game 7, that is a bit of a concern, especially based on how Jones has played the past couple of games. Now, of course, like I said, Jones has a 3-3 record as well, like Fleury does. Going to Game 7 here, his goals against in the playoffs so far in this series, 3.23 and a .906 save percentage. But if you look at the first 4 games of the series, the numbers are certainly much worse. He's brought those up quite substantially here in the past 2 games. Of course, Vegas has only scored 3 goals over the last 2 games, which has helped dramatically in an overtime win against the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 6. They had over 50 shots, and that certainly padded his stats here and brought him up to much more respectability for sure. Now, taking a look at the scoring, you can see here that the top line for Vegas has been Stone, Pacioretty, and Stanley have been on fire. Mark Stone has 6 goals and 4 assists. Pacioretty has 4 goals and 6 assists, the exact opposite. Both have 10 points. And Stanley has 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points. Meanwhile, the top guys for the San Jose Sharks include Thomas Hertl with 5 goals, including that massive game winner in OT in Game 6, shorthanded. Logan Couture has 4 goals, and Erik Karlsson's putting up 7 assists. Obviously, this Game 7 between the Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights probably going to come down to goaltending here yet again. Even though Fleury's has the better stats here for the overall series, Jones has been phenomenal the past couple of games. He seemed to have found his confidence, and even though the first 4 games of the series, along with the regular season, his numbers haven't been great. Martin Jones typically in the past at least has been a pretty good playoff performer, and he certainly seems to have found that game that we've seen of him in the past. So this could be a very big challenging moment here for the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, the Sharks have the momentum winning the past 2 games to force Game 7, but you could also have an argument that they put out an awful lot of energy getting there as well. That double overtime game probably took a lot of energy out of both clubs as well in Game 6, so it should be very interesting. I'm going to say that this is likely going to be a low-scoring affair, become a goaltending duel, and if Jones continues to put up the stats like he has the past couple games, The Vegas Golden Knights might be in tough here, but that top line needs to be able to find a way to stay alive here. And it could also come down to some depth scoring between these two teams. Obviously, they both have some guys that are kind of, first line, second line type of guys that haven't been producing a ton of goals for their respective teams here. Like, if you take a look at the Marchessault, Carlson, Smith line, Marchessault has had decent production, but Riley Smith and William Karlsson don't have a whole lot of points here yet. Same thing with their bottom six guys. And on the San Jose side, even guys like Joe Pavelski, for example, certainly could produce a little bit more as well. And obviously, the San Jose team has a lot more experience and have dealt with more adversity here over the course of their career. So, based on everything and how it's going, I think it's kind of tilted, leaning towards favor of the Sharks, who of course are also on home ice here as well. The Sharks have won 2 out of the 3 games that they've played in San Jose here so far, so certainly they performed relatively well on home ice during the playoffs. So let me know your predictions down below. Who's taking Game 7 between the Sharks and the Golden Knights? Now, jumping over to the earlier game of the night featuring the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins, doing Game 7 here. Yet again, like I said before in the opener, it only seems right, it only seems fair that this series goes 7 games. It's been incredibly entertaining. It's been very much a back-and-forth series. No team has had more than a 1-game lead. They've gone back and forth exactly every game. Obviously, home ice has not played a whole heck of a lot of a role here in this series so far. So if the back and forthness continues, so far it's been Leafs, Bruins, Leafs, Bruins, Leafs, Bruins, and therefore I would say that the Leafs, theoretically are due for the Game 7 win, although they are definitely due in the state of the franchise to get past the big bad Bruins here. It would be a major boost to the Maple Leafs. Obviously, there's a lot of top teams beat out so far in these Stanley Cup playoffs, and any teams that had a really solid regular season, they're certainly going to be facing some underdogs in the next round, so there's certainly no guarantee that they're going to have an easier march to Lord Stanley's Cup. But either way, it would be a massive win for the Leafs. They could finally get over that hump and defeat the Bruins in Game 7, just for the confidence of the players in that team and the franchise moving forward. It's certainly very hard, though, to bet against the Bruins team in a Game 7 situation based on playing the Leafs the last couple of times of what we've seen. When you get experience on their side like Marchand and Bergeron, Chara, they know how to get the job done. They've produced time and time again. So obviously they're going to be looking for a big game here as well to make it happen here one more time. Take a look at the goaltending battle of this series. Here are the stats for Tuukka Rask and Freddie Andersen. Obviously, both guys have a 3-3 record. Being a Game 7 here, both have 3 victories. Rask has a 2.54 goals against and a .921 save percentage. Meanwhile, Freddie Andersen's boasting a 2.7 goals against and a .925 save percentage. So overall, not drastically different. It's been pretty even so far in the goaltending department. They both had their moments when they looked really, really solid, and they've kind of had some moments that they probably like to have back as well. So overall, it's really not tilted one side or the other. If you take a look at the top scorers for each club, you get Patrice Bergeron for the Bruins, 2 goals, 2 assists. Brad Marchand's really been a catalyst, though, 4 goals and 5 assists for 9 points. Pasternak's got 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points as well. Looking at the Leafs side of it, Matthews has been leading with 5 goals, has 6 points altogether. Marner has 2 goals, 2 assists, but John Tavares only has 1 goal and 3 assists, and that 1 goal came as an empty netter earlier in the series. So obviously, they need to have some more production from John Tavares. Of course, the Tavares line and the Bergeron line have been matched up head-to-head, and have both done a relatively good job against each other, slowing down the offensive side of the game, same time trying to be defensively responsible and solid on face-offs. So both lines have been doing a pretty decent job on each other, so if one line gets the better of the other tonight, that very well might be the difference in the game. But at the same time, they each have their game breakers, and they each have different levels of experience here. So can the Leafs handle the pressure of Game 7 and get the job done? If you take a look back at last year in the Game 7 in the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs, just like the one before that, the Leafs had control of the game and ended up collapsing. Obviously, we saw a beautiful goal last year in Game 7 from Kasperi Kapanen, putting the Leafs up with a 4-3 lead in the third period. But unfortunately, the Bruins came back with a goal from Torrey Krug to tie things up. And then the guy that's been in the thorn of the side of the Leafs all series, Jake DeBrusk, number 74, scored the eventual game-winning goal not long after in the third period. Of course, the Boston Bruins went on to add an empty net goal as well for a 7-4 victory, and number 74 getting the game-winning goal. So if you're like me at all and you play around with numerology even a little bit, 74 seemed to be the number going against the Leafs last year, and 74 has been a thorn in the Leafs side all of this year. So obviously keeping him off the score sheet as well will be key here yet again. But obviously the Toronto Maple Leafs Obviously, it will be huge for them to get this victory, but at the same time, the Bruins have owned them in the playoffs, so it's really hard to say how this is going to go. It's going to be one of the more exciting Game 7s in the NHL playoffs this year. They're always fun, so of course, I want to hear your predictions down below in the comment section. Who takes Game 7 tonight? Is it going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs, or is it going to be the Boston Bruins? Who's going on to round 2 to face the Columbus Blue Jackets here in the second round of the playoffs? Obviously, after the Blue Jackets dismantled the Tampa Bay Lightning the way they did 4 straight games, certainly not going to be no easy task at all for either team, no matter who wins. They might find themselves in tough against a very much upstart Columbus team here in the next round. So that is your Game 7 previews for tonight's Game 7 matchups in the 2019 Stanley Cup Playoffs. Of course, like I said, it's not the only Game 7 remaining here, so we'll be doing additional previews and recaps here over the next day or two as the first round wraps up here in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams. There's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit the subscribe button for more videos just like this one, and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.